Good morning and welcome to the Light on Suitability podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Comeau, with co-hosts Michele Garfinkel, parole attorney, Daryl and Sean, and back with us is Willie Redmond to speak with us about the challenges he faced on parole. And let's get into it. I wanted to open it up. I wanted to have any more questions of Mr. Redmond about, I had one question of Mr. Redmond, I'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to give a highlight of the week and being mindful of my duty not to disclose who my clients are. I'll just say that we as attorneys sometimes represent clients who do not do well on parole after telling the board that they're suitable. Don't worry, we've got this, parole plans, relapse prevention plans, and the like. You know, the wheels can come off very, very quickly. In fact, it can come off within months of being released after the governor says, yeah, the grant of parole was a good one. And we have talked about this on the show quite a bit about the difference between a grant of parole and being very suitable on parole, being suitable for parole. And also, as Daryl and Sean have discussed a lot, it's we're suitable, we've got this, but man, you better have your coping skills, tools, strategies, support network in place. It better not be just something that we put on paper. It's something that we use because it's a daily struggle, for lack of a better word, challenge to continue to navigate the parole process. And so not sure what happens to guys who just don't make it within the first few months of being on parole, but finding themselves homeless, living in hotels with drug addict girlfriends or boyfriends, back to committing violence, back to evading police, you know, and that's what we sometimes unfortunately see, Michele and I, from clients, some clients. It's still rare, thankfully, but again, it's some of that old stuff coming back to haunt people. And that's one of the reasons why they say, no, I've got the character defects. I don't have any character defects anymore. It's like, no, the character defects are always there. You have to remain vigilant and serious about that, because you can end up not only violated on parole and sent back to prison, but you can also be violated and sentenced to new charges as a second or third striker. So, you know, doubling your sentence and having to do time, and then those yearly reviews at a parole hearing isn't really even going to matter, because even if they say, yes, you're suitable, you're still stuck with an 8-year sentence. And so that's something that, you know, we come across, and I haven't come across in a while because I don't really have a reception center prison on my panel, but every now and then we have to put someone there because of, you know, institutional movement and stuff. So the reception center gets bypassed. But I wanted to open it up from there. Perhaps I'll turn it over to Michele, and then Michele can hand it off to the next person as she sees fit.
I think I'd actually like to hear from the guys about challenges that they saw when they got out. I think firsthand examples are really going to be useful of what the real challenges are and what it feels like when you get out, because a lot of people think that they're ready and then they get a rude awakening. I know we've had the one conversation where Daryl and Sean were talking about bringing their plans with them to the streets. I think it's be good to hear from them to see about the actual challenges. And Willie, you know, you're off parole, but I know it wasn't a smooth sailing and an easy ride. So I'd like to hear the real experiences and challenges.
So let's let Willie start off. Willie, what was your challenges when you came home?
I think in some ways, my reentry was an aberration from a lot of people. And I say that because because of my daughter, my relationship with Tracy, my relationship with Judge White, Restoration House in Sacramento, I had a situation that I came home kind of in better financial shape. My daughter lived in Sacramento. I had a little money in the bank. So my situation was a little bit different, and the economics wasn't such a shock. The culture shock after 4 decades was the biggest thing. And then you got to remember, I started going to college I was out a week and was already enrolled in college and working. To go from Jamestown, working in the canteen, to come to that, and then trying to learn to interface and interact socially again with people, trying not to be robotic, trying not to act funny in the line at Walmart when somebody got behind me and stuff. It's just a lot of little things that made me feel, is everybody looking at me? Was I out of place? Those things for me were the hardest. And then the stigma. Like I said, my first parole agent truly despised me because I knew him as a CO inside. He thought that by forcing me to go to AA and these recovery groups at Oak Park Community Center, I think he thought that he really didn't know me. And I think that he thought that this was really going to disparage me or break my spirit. Rather than anything, suddenly his supervisors and other people are coming to the meetings, and I ended up chairing the meetings at some point. So needless to say, he was kind of after me. I ultimately ended up, I went to jail. I actually went to jail. And at the time I went to jail, the day I went to jail, he had actually got transferred. I got transferred off his caseload officially. I got out, no charges, everything went away. Ended up with a decent parole agent who told me simply, you stay employed, you stay clean, I'm not bothering you. He said, your past follows you. It follows you everywhere. Unfortunately, the first agent, he said, but the supervisor went back and realized it while you were sitting there up in jail. They went back and they realized that this dude had a personal grudge, and they took him off your case. That was the biggest obstacle for me. Those two things, as hard as it may seem, and as small and minute as they may seem compared to some of the problems that other friends of mine have encountered, and guys I've been trying to help with employment and other things I've encountered. For me, just really readjusting to life. You spoke about Brian maybe not up on the technology. I've been out 8 years. I'm still not up on all of it. And I have to use it to write books. And I'm still not up on all of it. You follow me? It's just, for me, all my 20s, all my 30s, all my 40s, all my 50s, and the first 3 years of my 60s was behind CDCR walls. The little bitty things of no phone booths on the corner. Just crazy stuff. I felt out of place. I went into a bank thinking I could just open an account, just, like we used to open savings accounts. And people were looking at me, and I felt out of place. I felt out of place. And it was those things for me that I found the most difficult, just like readjusting to how fast the world had moved and how much had changed. The morality, the morals. I never thought I would see people walking down the street half naked all the time, not some of the time, not in Ibiza in Spain somewhere, or not in Haight-Ashbury somewhere, but I just never thought I'd see it. I never thought I'd see citizens walking down the streets jerking, loaded off meth, and the cops just ride by and look at them and like it's nothing. I never thought I'd see healthy young people standing up with signs on the corner saying anything to eat. I saw it on the news, but to encounter it and to encounter it in such massive numbers, it was just, for me, it was like, wow, is this really? And for a minute, I went into not a depression, but I went into a kind of a stage. It's like, you mean I struggled for 40 years to get back to this, and this is like all it is? And then people around me start telling me, Willie, just look around you. Don't look at what you don't have. Don't look at what's not going on. Look at where you really are. Look at how many people you can help. Look at what you can do. Look at this. Look at that. Find out what makes you happy. That was for something as insignificant as a piece of paper and a declaration from somebody that didn't have the shouldn't have had the rights to keep me in captive for 40 years any damn way. For me, getting my passport was the beginning of just, it was turning over something. I stopped worrying and I stopped caring about the sounds behind me. I stopped being itchy. I stopped being nervous. I thought, well, this pseudo freedom, because it's really all being off parole is pseudo freedom. Because parole is simply in custody at large. You're still doing time on parole. People misunderstand the meaning of parole. Literally, the word parole literally means in custody at large. That's it. Why? You can get violated and picked up. Your parole officer can knock on the door anytime he wants, just like the police or the squad in the cell. Hey, cuff up. No reason, no nothing. Tells you later. Confidential information. Bye. So there's no real difference. And it's almost until you get that document that I started to feel a level of confidence and comfort that I could kind of proceed with my life. I kind of walked and didn't realize it, but I kind of walked on eggshells. Even as I was accomplishing some of my goals and having some successes, there was always this eggshell feeling, if you know what I mean, that at any time this could all be snatched. At any time this could, and then I had a couple car accidents and I was like, oh man, at any time this could all be taken. But it has another significant meaning for you as a man and as a person, and it frees you up to be able to genuinely help others in an unlimited capacity. If that's what, and those were just, I don't know, I'm kind of personalizing it, but those were the challenges for me. It really wasn't money. It genuinely wasn't. And that's just a blessing. I really didn't have that problem. And then ultimately I got married to a professional person. And so a lot of my problems that other people have had, like with economics, re-entry, I didn't have that. My problems had more to do with my head, in my mind, in my brain, and it was a shock. I don't care how much you think you stay up with the news, prepare. It's just a different world after 4 decades. And then if I put it to you really honest, I was lost. There were times when I was really, really, really lost. I was functioning, but drug addicts, a heroin addict can function on his job and drive a forklift all day. That's nothing. So I was functioning, but I was walking on eggshells, still scared. It's kind of like, maybe, I know Sean and I know you guys can relate to this, bro. That, have you ever been programming, come up out the hole, you programming, you working, everything is going good. And that dreaded, hey, Redmond, yeah, cuff up. Like, what the hell going on? What are you talking about? We'll tell you. 10 days later, you go to committee, find out, oh yeah, you're here for confidential information. We'll investigate. We'll let you know. We'll see you in 6 months. And you sitting there. And then they come and say, oh, it wasn't nothing, mistaken identity. You can go resume your program. How is that possible? Feel like that's going to happen to you several times as you start to climb the ladder or make achievements out here. You're not sure. And the thing I would want to try to express to both of you guys, to anybody paroling, don't listen to the sounds in your head. Don't listen to the voices that are saying, hey, you're gonna fail. Abdul, you're not. You don't have to. And so when dudes come out, I don't know if you guys knew Cisco, John Franklin, one of the best, most talented artists that ever came through CDCR. He thin, buff, cut up little brother, got a burn on his arm, but he a couple years younger than me. I got some of his art here now. That's how valuable it is. He got out in 2017. I got him a bed at the transitional house I was working in, one of the transitional houses I was working in Sacramento off of 44th Restoration House. Got him a bed. I had long since left, and I wasn't even working there no more, but I still can get people beds there. Got him a bed, helped him get a job at Denny's, out in Citrus Heights. You know, this guy, a month and a half into the job, walks into Denny's, pulls a pistol for no reason. He was so scared of freedom. After 37 years, robbed Denny's, ran down the street, carjacked the car, wrecked it, and he back in prison now. Had 22 years clean in prison. Put him out. You spoke about somebody that on paper he looked immaculate, but here's the problem. He never internalized the information. He never truly adopted, not only not to the 12 steps, but to recovery as a whole. He never embraced it. It never became a part of him to be a better person. He never explored the inner traumas and the things that went through his life as a youngster. A lot of us did. A lot of us did not. The ones that did not, those are the ones that are failing at the more rapid pace. Those that went into it and they got it superficially, they're at risk every day that they're out there and not staying focused and getting the work and doing the work and being around the right people, places, and things. So they're fragile. But to give yourself the best guarantee, the best warranty, like the car shield, the life shield warranty, is you have to continue to work out here on yourself. You have to look in that mirror every day. And you have to internalize what you know. I could quote the 12 steps of NAA, CGA upside down, starting with 12 to 1, 1 to 12. The CGA prayer upside down, it doesn't matter. None of that means absolutely nothing if I can't live it. If I don't believe it. Parrot can parrot something and don't have the mindset to believe it. They just can parrot. You have to believe it. You have to believe in your humanity, your self-worth. You have to understand, and you have to accept the fact that I'm Willie Redmond. I'm an angry motherfucker. Excuse my language sometimes. I can be. I know that. Learn down. I know that engine, that locomotion that be starting to build up. Like, it's that wheel start turning. I feel it. Kind of learn now how to turn it off. Or at least take a step back, take a breath. Don't be a robot. Don't be automatic. Don't be a reactionary. At minimum, respond. Don't react. To react is not to think. To respond is a thoughtful action. That's pretty much, hopefully that answers somebody's questions.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, bro.
Willie, you, again, not only were you inspirational for us inside, continually, I'm pulling inspiration from you. When I came home, I thought I was going to go to Modesto. I had everything wrapped around working with Tracy Lum and getting with Mike Ball and Legacy Alliance. And I had everything laid out for Modesto because as an ex-gang member, I didn't want to go back to Los Angeles.
Right.
But remember, I got pushed out right after the governors, when they were trying to recall him. So right after the recall was over, literally the next day they called me and said, "Hey, you're leaving tomorrow." I was like, "What?" How? So where I was going to go in Modesto was not available. So they said that my parole plans were not viable. So you're going to Los Angeles. I was like, now after 3 decades,
wow,
I left literally a baby. I was 17 years old when I got arrested. So I haven't even been arrested as an adult, although I was in adult prison all my life. I turned 18 in jail. So here I am now, getting out of prison after 3+ decades, and I'm going to a place that I don't want to be because I did not believe that my success was connected to that city. It was the city was on fire. The city was on fire. We in the middle of COVID, and I'm being honest. I did not want to be there. My immediate family had moved out of state. So, I was like, wow, how am I going to do this? So I went to a transitional house and no ID, no birth certificate, no social security card. I had a secondary and third plan, but I didn't look at that as a reality. because I've had my card in stock and going to Northern California, doing everything I could do, become a successful, and then I could tiptoe and get to know Los Angeles if I wanted to. And I did have a plan to do it as such, and the board agreed. That's the best way to, to slowly, transition into, finding your old self in your old city and then fixing it so you won't have those problems. Anyway, because a lot of people get out of prison and they don't have an ID. So, and in order to get an ID, you have to get a social security card. Well, guess what? I was in the social security office. They were like, who are you? What are you? There's nothing, there's no record of you, So then I had to wait and get a birth certificate and got to do it online. It's COVID. Can't walk in and get it. So that's another month. So the whole process, I was like, this is crazy, and had it not been for me, like you say, truly internalizing, truly taking my self-help seriously, and truly believing in my coping skills, because I didn't copy nobody's stuff. A lot of people copy people, this was really grafted based upon my individual needs as I understood me. If it were not for these things, I could have collapsed the first month I was home, because it seemed like nothing was going the way I wanted it to go. And the first thing I learned is that people in society have been living a life. They don't know how they gradually became technologically savvy. They don't know how they gradually learned how to use a cell phone, a computer, or whatever. This was all a gradual process for everybody. So here I am getting dropped off from I tell people I was like Mark from Orc. I was just dropped off, in front of Mindy and saying 909. I don't know nothing, And when I express to people, they're like, just do this, just do that. I'm like, that's not how you learned it, But because they've gone so far from the initial stage, they didn't know how to back up and say, oh, you have to do this first, or you have to do that. So one of the things I want to say to people, the prisoner who comes home and the family, patience is a key.
It is.
Patience is a key.
Wow.
And I also felt that, like the last hired is the first fired. I thought the last one that got out of prison was the first one going back. So I had that on me for a little bit. Like, am I out of place? Will I ever be able to adapt, to this? Although I'm very good in adapting, but it was everything was brand new. Everything was moving so fast, and again, the biggest thing, everyone has a life. So it's hard to get out of prison and inject myself into my family's life because they're living. And they're living at such a pace, of such momentum, that they don't realize how fast they're going. They don't have time to stop and say, hey, let me help you across the street. Let me help you do this. And I came in with transitional house due to COVID. There was no guidance counselors. There was nobody but us, wearing masks in the transitional house. So we didn't even get that educational process that that we needed to really transition. And I've had some dark times. I've had some rough times. And the biggest thing for me, I found a job without an ID. Thank God. I'll be forever grateful to the people who really I'm still currently working with and working for now, because now I'm part owner of the company. But they gave me a shot. I went in and I sold myself the way I would, if I was the way I did with the board. And I was honest. And I'm gonna say this: I took a job and didn't get paid for the first 2 weeks. I wanted to show them how serious I was, because they didn't even know who I was. They didn't even know how to pay me. I didn't have a cash out. They didn't know how to pay me. But no, things have been rough, and I've had 6 parole agents. I just got another one. 6 parole agents. Yeah. So every time it's like starting all over again. Can I go see my family? Well, I don't know you. I haven't dealt with you long enough to get this, to sign this off. Okay, fine, no problem. Go to the class. It's still, like you said, a parolee. We're on parole at large. No doubt about it.
That's all.
No doubt about it.
In custody
no
at
doubt.
large.
In custody at large. Excuse me.
That's it.
That's what
they
parole
call
is.
it. In custody at large into the community. That's it.
But I tell you this. Parole is not bad. Parole is what you make it.
Exactly.
And the same way inside of prison, where I had to separate from a lot of people I was affiliated with, I associated with because I believe they brought bad to me, whether it was mentally, emotionally, or physically. I have to do the same thing here. Because if I come home and you still want to address me as my old gang name, you still want to invite and motivate me to do some things that's remotely close to that, you don't have good for me. You don't have good for me. So and it's people that I feel dearly for, but I got to pull back, and I've been pulling back slowly because I don't see and I feel for them tremendously from my heart, and maybe in the future things could be different, but I have to get me together, as I was mentioning 2 weeks ago, and really focus on my success because my success has to be mine. They have theirs. Why I'm not entitled to a success? And that's what I tell people. You've lived your life all these years uninterrupted. No one has interfered. Why can't I develop that same pattern so I can have a level of success? So, it's tremendous. It's tremendous. But we do have an antidote now. We do know how to help people get a social security card, a birth certificate, a driving license, an ID, occupation. We do know how to help people go to classes. We do know how to talk about emotional trauma, how to deal with families, because we've gone through it. We're the best people for it. We're the best people for it. And this is why I want to bring Sean in, because I know this is what he's doing currently. Sean.
I want to add something because I know Michelle and Elizabeth have a lot to say. Willie, those voices that you say, don't listen to the voice in your head, it is so prevalent. When you started trying to become a religious or spiritual person, they say the more faith you have, the more tribulations come. Well, true. I'm learning outside, the closer we get to getting off parole, the more them voices start telling you you're going to fail. Yeah. Because, I'm really, really conscious about certain things. And I learned yesterday that the reason why I'm so cautious on time, because I don't want to fail. So I want to be early to everything so I can have that cushion. And the more we do, the more that voice is saying, you're not going to do it right. You're not doing it right. But all that means is I'm really doing it right. I'm really making those accomplishments. So listeners, you got to understand, yes, because we go through a lot of mental and not used to just talk to people because we didn't have nobody to talk to. And that's the thing, I'm troubled by things. I'm internalizing the processing first. And when I see some light, then we can talk about it. But initially, it's not talking about things. I just have to do it. You got to take a few steps back and reevaluate and regroup. And sometimes I'm even having to move myself out of the equation in order for the light to shine again.
If I could say one thing before we go, I don't want to leave anybody that's listening, parents of incarcerated people, family members of incarcerated or other people that's been incarcerated, or even Elizabeth and Michelle. When it comes to the human emotions, we're not special just because we've been incarcerated. The range of emotions and feelings that we experience and we have, they're human emotions. They exist for everybody. I hurt, you hurt. We experience grief. We experience trauma. We carry our traumas with us. They don't go away. What happens with our traumas? What happens is it's a management thing. Like you spoke about the MAP program, they managing it with narcotics when in point of fact, that's really not the way. That's just a management. To really learn to I won't say control, but to fight against the triggers of anger, to fight against the things that bring you depression, to fight against every range of human emotion is really not to run from them. They're gonna come.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You have to you have to get through it. The operative word being through. You have to navigate yourself through these things. That's what recovery is about for us. We never knew. See, we were encountered with what is it about the 12% of people in American society that get incarcerated? We encounter the same problems and the same things that the other 88% do. It's the fact that we were unable to navigate our range of emotions in the right kind of manner. It's the fight
Right.
it's the fact that some of our traumas was maybe we were so youthful in them that they were so overwhelming that they shadowed the rest of our life. They changed our development. They retarded our growth. And we were immature when we were committing adult crimes with immature childish minds. We was playing G.I. Joe and shit
Yes.
with real guns. Excuse my language. We was doing these real things because in a way, our inability to really understand what we was going through. Everybody else on the streets, they experience grief, they experience loss, hurt, pain, poverty. They don't go to prison. They don't go to jail. They don't become violent. And we got to understand what is it about us. Once we know what that is and we're able to truly identify, not identify it good enough to convince 3 people on the board, it's like shooting dice. Anybody can do that. No, we have to learn ourselves how to navigate that range of emotion. They're not going away. Somebody gonna
Right.
piss you off tomorrow. Are you gonna pull out your gun and shoot him? You're gonna stab him? You're gonna throw him off the tier? Or you gonna step back and let a fool look foolish arguing by itself?
Yeah, the fool look foolish.
And so we have to navigate. We have to learn how to really navigate. We're not different than other people. The only thing that's different is how we have allowed ourselves to react to the emotions and not respond. And what happens is this. And I say this, and I don't mean it in a derogatory tone because some of the people I love most are still gang members. But there's nobody more retarded than a gang member. You're always going to be retarded. Your growth and your maturity is always going to be limited. So you're never going to learn how to feel and how to really experience your emotions, let alone learn how to manage and navigate them.
Excellent, excellent, Willie. So we'll see you
Very
all
much.
next week and